This is Volterra. You know, there are some places you just cannot say enough about, and this is one of them. As much as I fell in love with Florence as a city, I fell in love with Volterra as a hill town. There is so much here that I have to actually do it in two videos. If you get a choice to visit any hill town in Italy in the Tuscany area, this is the one you should go to. We were warned by the tour guide that this is a windy, long uphill trip, and some people who are actually experienced travelers did get sick on the windy road up there. And then about 95% up, I had to lower my head and not look out the window anymore because it began to get to me. But man, I would do it again and again. Hey, that's what they make drugs for. The site was a Bronze Age settlement and then an Etruscan city. As excavations of the area continue, they're finding that many of what had been contributed to the Roman culture actually were Etruscan, but the Romans wanted to boost their own importance in the area and did whatever they could to hide this. And it worked for about 2,500 years. All of this history is just recently coming out now. Hey, after all, the victors do rewrite the history. There are some great shops here. We actually bought a lot of alabaster items that we had to have shipped home. Alabaster is very heavy, and you don't want to be dragging that around the countryside. There are many piazzas and restaurants and museums and malls all in this one hill community. And it's easy to get around in both the daytime and the nighttime, which I always recommend anyway. During the Renaissance period, Florence was under the rules of the Medicis, as they were continuing to try to conquer most of Tuscany. Volterra was no exception. The Florentines, whose forces did eventually conquer the place, were not very popular, and the people of Volterra were very independent, and a number of rebellions were brutally put down. One of the area's claim to fame is that rich alabaster, which is still an important industry for the city. Besides just having stores selling the products, there are artisans' shops here where you can go in and actually see them work. But be warned, it is dusty. It was great to get out before the tour group went to breakfast. It was just very quiet in the morning. Many of the stores were getting their fresh fruits and vegetables. I got to at least smile to the vendors as they unloaded strawberries the size of our lemons. They asked my name. I'd say Vito Amarelli. They'd start rattling off in Italian. I'd have to admit to my shame with non parlo Italiano. They would just smile at me, and all I could think of are all of my relatives from New Jersey, from both my mother's and my father's side, and get aggravated at myself for not having talked to them a little more than I did. Do I look like a native? The wind and time have worn a groove into the stone. Even though you had to take a long bus ride or some type of ride to get up here, you still end up walking up when you are here. Everything in Italy is up. Most of the stones in these roadways and walkways are local, and I saw seashells in some of them, which demonstrates that at one time this area, as high as it is now, was once underwater for millions of years. Although the reason there is laundry hanging out all over Italy is because of the cost of electricity being so high for dryers, to me it's just part of what Italy is, that warm breeze up in the hill and the smell of freshly laundered clothing. If it wasn't for a few cars and the charge cards, you could think you're back in medieval times. The view of the country below makes it clear why people settled here. Besides being a great defensive place, there was ample water supplies and especially the trade in alabaster. They were the rulers of that particular trade. And they built their towns and forts here. You own this valley if you own this hill. This present church was rebuilt after the earthquake of 1117 that actually destroyed most of the town.